It's been over 3 years since I got the Switch OLED, and I'm just so excited for the new Nintendo Switch 2. During that time, handhelds have definitely gotten a lot better, including extra features like mouse mode, but that's here too, and so much more, even a new fancy webcam. But it's actually a lot more than just a webcam, so let's experience all of this together. Thanks to Nintendo for sending all of this over, and first, let's take a look at the Pro Controller. Alright, so this is the new Switch 2 Pro Controller along with a cable. I'm surprised that this is an A to C cable. Whoa, this is nice. This is like a soft touch material. It's matte, and it feels a lot higher quality than the old one, which just feels plastic. The old controller should still work with the Nintendo Switch 2, so let's see what are the actual differences and whether I think this is worth it. The overall shape and size of the controller is practically the same. The layout of the buttons are also pretty much all the same, except you do have this new C button on the Switch 2 Pro controller. That's the chat button, which allows you to chat with your friends now. The top triggers are also the same. However, on the back, the new Switch 2 Pro actually has these 2 extra buttons. And what do they do? Oh, okay, so the GL/GR buttons can be mapped to whatever you like. I definitely see how these 2 buttons can be very useful in some games where you want to map a shortcut. Overall, the Switch 2 Pro controller does feel quite a bit nicer, I would say. The buttons are like less rattly, they feel a little bit more firm. The joysticks are also very smooth to like wiggle around. These buttons are gray. It's a nice contrast against the black. They also feel really nice. Yeah, definitely in comparison, the old controller doesn't feel as nice, but it's probably fully functional and works perfectly fine. What should I unbox next? I think it's time we unbox the Switch itself. Oops. I like unboxed it backwards. Least satisfying unboxing ever. The first thing that flew out is the Joy-Con holder, and this is the dock. It's a lot thicker than the old one. And here is the Nintendo Switch 2, along with, of course, the 2 Joy-Cons. We also got these 2 straps for the Joy-Cons and another HDMI cable for the dock. These straps are very different from before. Even if you never strap the Joy-Cons to your hands, you might want to bring these around because they now have the feet. So when you use the Joy-Con in mouse mode, it feels a lot smoother and you don't have to worry about the side of the Joy-Cons getting all scratched up. Okay, so here is the Nintendo Switch 2. These Joy-Cons, along with the back, are also the soft touch material that's matte. And I mean, compared to the first version of it, this looks like it got a proper glow up. I really like how the 2 Joy-Cons are now black, but you still get the signature blue and red. I mean, this is definitely an iconic look, but I prefer the sleeker design. To release the Joy-Cons, you just press this button in the back, and then you also see the little hint of color here. It's notably larger than the Switch OLED, which is already a bit larger and heavier than the first version of the Switch. If you're coming from the regular Switch one, it'll feel like a pretty significant difference. The larger screen is of course more enjoyable, and it still overall feels very light and portable. Alright, so right now the Switch 2 is setting up, and now it wants me to plug this thing in to continue downloading data. And with the new Switch 2, it actually has 2 USB-C ports, one on the bottom, but also a new one here at the top, which could be so much more convenient if you want to charge it while having it sit on the table like this. And of course, you can still fully utilize the kickstand, set it to whatever angle you want. But let's talk about some of the other accessories first. I'm gonna put the Joy-Cons into their holder. I love how they magnetically attach. It really is satisfying, and it's also just a lot easier than having to like line up the slots and slide them in like I had to before. But otherwise, the Joy-Con is pretty similar to how it's always been, except for the addition of the C button to chat. I was hoping to see some improvement about the Joy-Con drift, but so far I haven't really seen anything, and of course, since this is brand new, there's no way for me to test it out. Let's also unbox some Nintendo Switch 2 accessories from today's sponsor, Dbrand. First is the Kill Switch case for the Switch 2. First up is this thing, which is not only a cover for the Switch, but it also has 10 slots for your game cards. Ah, just dropped the Joy-Con. I swear that was not scripted, but good thing I have this grip. So this Joy-Con grip not only covers and protects the Joy-Con, but I think the even better thing is it makes the back so much thicker. Like, just look at the difference here. And it does make the Joy-Con feel a lot more ergonomic in your hand. It really does feel a lot more comfortable. Let's put the rest of the case on too. Now the Switch 2 is protected with more ergonomic Joy-Cons, and of course, you can still detach the Joy-Cons and adjust the kickstand. But if you're thinking about how it fits in the dock with all of this, well, it doesn't, and Dbrand has thought of that. You just take this adapter thing and slot it into the Switch's dock, and now you can dock the Switch by putting it here. And there are vents to keep it cool. It's super well designed, and the USB-C here even pivots so that you won't snap it. I also have a Prism 2.0 screen protector, even with instructions for those who can't read. But you kind of have to be able to read this to know that it's the instruction. Anyways, go check out dbrand stuff at the link down below. They are very high quality. Oh, and how could I forget? Now these Joy-Cons can also be used as a mouse, and you can actually see this little sensor here. I did test out using them like a mouse to play air hockey, and it was really fun. So this definitely unlocks some new ways of playing. And something else that I feel like is really overlooked is that these top buttons on the Joy-Con are bigger than before. So when you use each one individually to play, it is a better experience. It's still not like the most comfortable thing, but definitely a lot better than before. It's pretty cool that you always have two controllers attached to the Switch, so if you're out and about, you can always play a game with another person. It's very social. And now with the release of this official webcam from them, they're leaning even more into the social aspect of it. So of course you can use this as a webcam, but actually there's some games that specifically use camera-related features. For example, in the Super Mario Party Jamboree, there's this thing where it will capture you, so it's like tracking your motion, and that's part of the gameplay. I think that's really fun, and it brings party games to a whole new level. Look at how small the camera is. For some reason, I thought it would be bigger, but it's like small and cute. Also, there's a physical camera blocker right here. I finally finished copying the data over. Okay, so the first thing I noticed is that even though the Switch 2 has a much larger screen, it's 7.9 inches, but these bezels are thicker and they're also not symmetrical. Of course, I'm comparing this to the Switch OLED, which has very thin bezels and they're a lot more symmetrical. So that's a little bit disappointing. That's just something that I'm not very used to coming from the Switch OLED, but you know, maybe a Switch 2 OLED is coming soon. I mean, it probably is because the Switch 2 does not have an OLED screen. It's LCD and 1080p, but at least it's 120 FPS. But something that I'm glad to see is that when you put it on the TV, now it can do 4K at 60 Hertz. But you know, it's definitely an improvement. Now, as for what's powering the Switch 2, inside is a custom processor made by NVIDIA, and it has about the same amount of performance as an Xbox Series S, which is like a way bigger machine that needs to be plugged directly into the wall. So it is pretty impressive that something small and handheld has the same amount of performance. But people don't really buy Nintendo Switch for the performance. It's more so to play the Nintendo games. Speaking of which, there's one more thing in the box, and that's the new Mario Kart World. Look at how small the game card is. Here under the kickstand, you can see the microSD express card slot. It's basically microSD, but with more contact patches on the back to support higher speeds. So you can't just use any random microSD card, but you also probably don't need the Nintendo version either. Just make sure to get a microSD express card. Now, as for the battery life, so the Switch 2 has a 21% larger battery than the Switch 1 and Switch OLED, but with a more powerful processor and a bigger high refresh rate screen, it also consumes a lot more power. It's actually estimated that the Switch 2 will have less battery life than before. I tested it out by playing 25 minutes of Mario Kart World, and it used 18% of battery, which means that you can play around 2.3 hours of Mario Kart World with a full charge. That's not great, so you might need to bring a charger around. Let's dock it to play on the TV, and here's the new dock. As you can see, compared to the old one, it's a lot thicker, and that's because it has a fan inside. That probably helps the Switch output 4K to the TV. I just set up the new Switch on the TV, so let's play the new Mario Kart World. There's some new modes now, like Knockout, where you drive on several courses back to back, and the players get eliminated after each track. But right now, I'm going to play Grand Prix to unlock more characters, and there are a lot of new characters by default, which is super fun. Oh no. No. I lost to a bot. It does look good. The graphics do look really good. Just like the Switch hardware, all of the graphics in Mario Kart got a nice glow up too. It looks amazing. Here's a side-by-side with Mario Kart 8. Everything looks a lot less polygonal. Yay! Riding on the water feels so weird. What? I can't believe I lost to a bot again.